Hey guys, it's Charlie with That Makes Sense to Me. This is a philosopher's vlog where the only rule is less videography and more thoughts. Today we're talking about virtual reality as a possible tool for physical therapy. Okay, so I played a game called Audioshield in virtual reality somewhat recently. If you're not familiar with the game, it's like Dance Dance Revolution, except in VR. And instead of using your feet, you use your hands. And if you don't know what Dance Dance Revolution is, the way this game works is these orbs are flying at you, and you move your hands with these shields, and those shields hit the notes on beat with the music. And so you give it a song, and you have to move your hands, depending on the difficulty, like pretty far in order to hit those beats at the right time. And it kind of sounds silly, but it's actually way more fun than you would anticipate. And this got me thinking that this actually would be useful in a physical therapy context. If you injured your shoulder, and you had a limited range of motion, and you had to go to physical therapy to like do this a whole lot, right? This is a fundamentally boring motion, and it's fundamentally challenging, especially when you used to be able to do all of this. And building up those muscles can be a really challenging process, I would imagine, for people who you have to do this for weeks and weeks and weeks. Imagine that you take advantage of the modular difficulty levels within Audioshield. What I mean by that is you can click a button and change how far you have to move your hands and how fast you have to move them to keep up with the difficulty level of the game. So if it's already there and you just have to click a button, I can't imagine that it would be that hard for a physical therapist to work with the person who made that game, or someone who can make a similar game and make a lot of money, to change it, to tweak that button so that it was calibrated to a specific patient. Like at the beginning of the game, you enter the range of possible motions that are allowed for the patient, and then all of a sudden you take this boring task of like doing this for 20 minutes, right, and you turn it into a game where you have to meet and hit the rhythm to the rhythm of the music. But you can imagine that transforming this process into something more entertaining could actually have benefits for physical therapy patients. And of course the other thing is, this is modular, so as the patient regrows the muscle in his or her arm or shoulder or whatever, you could just turn the knob inside the game, enter a larger parameter, and then dynamically adjust the range of motion associated with that person, so that the process of physical therapy could be turned into a game, which I think would be really awesome. There's also a possible psychological encouragement level that's happening. Not only is the music really neat, but in virtual space, spatial dimensions can be warped, and your brain can like handle it. Just an example is like Vive. You can have a small motion of your hand that's attached to like a laser pointer in virtual space, and so you can move objects like 700 feet just by moving your wrist like this, if the object's in the right spot in virtual space. So if patients are discouraged by only being able to do this after having been able to have the whole range of motion, then they would be able to have the illusion of having a larger range of motion, which, like, depending, obviously I'm not a psychologist or in physical therapy, but like an encouraging illusion could be useful possibly in the therapeutic process. Okay, I have other philosophical thoughts about technology, but I will just put them in other videos because this is not the space for it. Suffice it to say, it's really obvious for us to think about ethics when it's a really complicated and like new technology, like in vitro fertilization, or like selective abortions, or like something really that's like clearly inherently ethically sticky. I think it's less easy to try to think with the same societally oriented lens when you're working with like a sort of more mundane technology that doesn't involve like making robots or something. But I think there's actually a lot of payoff if we could sort of transform our minds to think about mundane technologies in this more socially conscious way. This video is one in a new series. I don't know what to call it yet. If you have a cool name, let me know. But it's like, somebody make that. Like, what if we did this? Like, I will never do these things because I read books for a living, but I feel like there's a lot of creative possibilities. And since I'm constantly like, my head is in multiple disciplines at lots of times, I think I get I have an interesting perspective on how synthesis can happen across them. And so rather than just like sit on these ideas and never publish them because they'll never get into like an academic journal, I thought I'd share them with you. If this was cool, share, like, subscribe, hit all the buttons and all the things. And then if you're interested in collaborating about how to work on a new technology conceptually, I can let me know. Cool. Talk to you guys in the next one. Whoa, 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 whoa!